My name is Jens Christian Grøndahl. I'm a Danish author. I live in Copenhagen and I'm the author of around 40 books, I think, published since 1985. I think I started when I was 14 years old. I began writing small stories. Later, when I became a teenager, for real, I wrote poems, dozens of them, and tried to have them published by publishers here in Copenhagen to no avail, fortunately, I think. And later on, I became a film director in the sense that I was trained as one at the National Danish Film School. But this was a time when practically no films were made in Denmark, so it was quite difficult to make a first movie, and that was why I began writing again. I always knew I wanted to write because I've been writing since I was a very young teenager, and with the years I understood that this would probably be what I wanted to do. But then again, how do you become a writer? I had to figure that out. I've been very much inspired by Marcel Proust and also by later writers such as Claude Simon and Marguerite Duras, but also Danish writers whom you may not know. Classics such as J.P. Jacobsen and Herman Bang, which are very important influences for me. I wouldn't assume the responsibility of encouraging young people to become writers because it is a very difficult trade. It's very difficult to make a living from books. But if you love writing, if you feel that writing is part of who you are, then you must go on and you must write a lot and even more in order to find your own voice. I don't know if I'm really proud. There are two ways to read a book. You can try to recognize yourself in the book, but what is even better, I think, is when you feel recognized by the book, because the book looks at you and tells you something about yourself that you knew, but you didn't know that you knew it because you didn't have the words to realize it. That's when I feel that literature becomes magic. To become translated has always been a great pleasure. And when you become translated, you discover that you succeeded, because when I receive my translations in all the translations of my books in Dutch or in English or in French, I can see how something is added. It's like a new book, really. And I love the idea that one book can become several books in different languages. And certainly I love the idea that people feel recognized by what I write, even if it's transposed into a different language. I think people like my stories because they recognize personal experience. That's what I stay loyal to. That's what I try to stay loyal to. What it is to be an individual at a specific moment in time in life. I always think that my best work is the next book, the book I haven't written yet. Because in many ways, even if I've written like 40-something books and I've been writing since I was a young man in his 20s, I still feel that I'm trying to, to get closer to something, and I'm not quite there yet. I'm trying to get closer to something and I can't really tell you what it is. That's why I'm writing. Before I went to film school, I studied philosophy for a few years. And then I decided I couldn't continue because philosophy is an abstract way of using language, whereas poetry, which I wrote at the time, is a way of trying to be very precise about the emotions of this person. So one might say that philosophy and literature are wide apart. Philosophy and emotions come into one and somehow, influence the same language, which is the language of the novel. I'm basically the same writer and yet a different writer. I'm the same writer because I think my style is not changing that much, although it has undergone certain changes. But my approach to writing is basically the same. So I don't think I'm a better writer. I'm a different writer. I think that maybe I wrote my best lines many years ago. I still hope that I will write my very best lines in the years to come. Copenhagen is important for my work because this has been my city since I was young, and almost all of my books have at least chapters taking place in Copenhagen, in central Copenhagen where I live, or in districts of Copenhagen where I have lived, or which have been part of my life throughout the years. I always use what is close to me. Even if I invent a lot, I also use what I know, simply because it's there. It's easier. I don't do very much research. Maybe it's because I'm lazy. I simply like to make do with what's in front of me. There's one passage which is to do with memory, and which I wrote in my most recent novel, and for the time being, I think that is the best. Now, these are a few lines from my latest novel, As If Tonight I'm Sleeping on the Roof. Far down in the depth of years, we stand there still. I've lost touch with the person I was then, just as I've lost touch with Anna. Yet there we stand, completely still in the dark, completely unfamiliar to each other, completely close. Language is at best a depth sounder, and words cannot bridge the distance, but something down there remains beneath the weight of the past. The surprising thing about getting older is that you don't get heavier with the passing years, which is what you imagined when you were waiting for the story to begin. The person you once were would be disappointed with the person you've become, but fortunately, you've forgotten your young self. He stands there on the bottom, watching you shoot up into the air toward the great silvered mirror. He doesn't know the rising sensation of lightness and liberation, and you're not aware of it yourself until you approach the mirror, sucked into the light, and realize that it didn't matter what you became or who.